Darkcast Network. The light shines brightest on our indie podcasts.
Hello, Twisted Humans.
Do you find yourself wanting to know more about the latest murder, conspiracy, cult, or haunting?
Then this is the podcast for you.
In 1952, there was a record high of UFOs reported. 1,500 sightings.
There has been evidence of human sacrifice, devil worship, and it is haunted by more spirits than can be counted.
A family of 2 adults and 2 kids reportedly saw a giant flying thing with glowing red eyes.
And meanwhile, the family's nanny that helped Veronica to care for her and Lucian's children was found bludgeoned to death in the basement of their family home. I'm Alicia.
And I'm Sierra, and this is Twisted and Uncorked.
Hey, this is my disclaimer. I have a dirty mouth and a dirty mind. Oopsie. This is also a true crime podcast. I talk about insidious things that happen to good people. Listener discretion is advised. Hey there, Rainbow Warriors. Welcome to Beyond the Rainbow. True crimes of the LGBTQ+. I'm your host, CJ. I'd love a follow on my socials because I freaking sparkle. I'm at Beyond the Rainbow on Facebook and Rainbow Crimes just about everywhere else. Everywhere else would be Instagram, Twitter, Tumblr, TikTok, and YouTube, just in case you're wondering. I'm so in love with the listener support I've been getting on Buy Me a Coffee, Ko-Fi, and Patreon. Thank you everyone for the love. I'll post the link to Buy Me a Coffee and Patreon in the show notes. A big rainbow thank you to my buddy Jared who bought me a cup of coffee. Jared, I can only hope that this means things are starting to look up for you, my friend. You're a badass, and don't forget it. For Patreon members at the $5 unicorn tier, you will receive early release and ad-free episodes, as well as 1 extra episode a month. At the end of each month, we take our unicorns out for a ride in a beautiful setting, and I tell my patron Rainbow Warriors a true crime story that I haven't shared on this show yet. If you're a patron, could you please send me a mailing address so I can send some Beyond the Rainbow goodies to you? Melissa and Jen, I have your addresses, but those are the only ones I have. A big thanks to my resource specialist Nate for suggesting this episode's case. And one other thing before I start I would like to mention. I was leisurely looking around Reddit, which I try to stay off of because it can be incredibly offensive. But I was on there, and for the first time ever, I saw the LGBTQ community being called the alphabet cult. Seriously? I was born this way. I didn't just show up because some gay leader charmed me into it. I think I just need to stay away from Reddit indefinitely. It's so easy for people to hide behind their avatars and cause major havoc. And then they spread hateful ideas when it's not necessary. Ugh. To start this episode off, I have a quote for y'all. If you find a beautiful, kind, wealthy lesbian that's head over heels for you, don't fuck it up. That quote is from me. In this case, that beautiful, kind, wealthy lesbian was 25-year-old Regina Hartwell of Austin, Texas. She was actually born and raised in Pasadena, Texas, but she resided in Austin after high school. Regina was an heiress of sorts, and she didn't mind helping friends out who might need the money. But she never wanted her friends to feel like charity cases. So, for example, she left $100 near her friend Jeremy's toothbrush. He found it and asked why she did it. She told him she appreciated him washing her car for her, and that was repayment for doing so. Jeremy was very grateful as he was struggling to make ends meet. Regina would also pay Jeremy to clean her apartment for her. The two were really good friends, And I believe Jeremy is also a member of the LGBTQ community. They always seem to have deep and meaningful conversations, and Regina trusted Jeremy immensely. So much so that when Regina would travel, she'd ask him to watch her beloved dog Spirit and her apartment for her. Yes, Regina was trusting. And Jeremy was actually a good one to trust. The other friend that she really trusted was interning at a law enforcement agency. Her name is Anita. Regina trusted Anita so much she gave her one of her bank cards and access to her bank account. Thankfully, Anita was also very trustworthy. Regina was kind and very thoughtful. Regina didn't grow up in a wealthy family. She was an only child, and she lived with her mom and dad. Her mom wasn't a very happy woman either. She took her aggression out on Regina. A lot of it was due to her mom's multiple sclerosis and being in constant pain all the time. Her mom was very strict with Regina, and she wouldn't allow her to wear shorts or pants, only dresses like a lady. If Regina crossed her mother would put her cigarette out on Regina's back, and it happened a lot more than once. At the age of 12, Regina's abusive mother died in an accident at work. It was kind of a freak accident, but the company saw that Regina and her father were well taken care of for the rest of their lives. After her mom died, Regina blocked out the abuse at the hands of her mother. She refused to believe that her mother was anything but beautiful, kind, and perfect. A really loving mother. Her mother became sort of a superhero to Regina post-mortem. As time went on, she started to believe that love and pain came hand in hand. And when her mother hurt her, it was all out of love, and she must have deserved it somehow. After her mother's death, Regina lived with her mostly absentee father. He didn't know what to do with a 12-year-old, let alone a girl, so he wasn't around very much. When she was 16, he gave her a car, a brand new $30,000 Porsche. He said it was hers on the condition that when she started to get her payouts from her trust fund, she would pay him for half. And what 16-year-old doesn't see a fancy, beautiful, brand new sports car and say, "Hell yeah, that sounds great"? Regina said the same thing. Once Regina took the car, her dad said, "Peace out, baby. I just bought a new house, and I'm going to move my girlfriend, soon-to-be future wife, in with me. Oh yeah, she has kids too. You hang in there, girl. Okay, catch you later. Bye." Unfortunately, this forced Regina to live on her own and grow up really quick. With the money from her mom's death, the opening count had $400,000 in it to start, and Regina was able to make limited withdrawals as needed. When Regina was 18, she could pull up to $40,000 every year. She received the money in installments, and by the time she was 25, she had already received $3 million. I believe that to be the balance of the trust account secured by her father. 16 and living on her own, this gave Regina a sense of freedom that no other kids at her school had. Regina would use her money to fund big parties at her home on weekends. She'd supply food, booze, music, and bedrooms that the kids could use to have sex in. Regina became everyone's favorite friend because of what she did for them, what she bought them. Gifts of purses, dinners, jewelry, and even more elaborate gifts such as a used car were some of the things that Regina bought her friends. I don't want to say that she was trying to buy her friends, because I don't necessarily think that was her intent to do that. But what I do believe is she was using her money to fill a void of emptiness and abandonment. The money brought people in, although not for the right reasons. In high school, Regina had some sexual encounters with boys. They didn't really like her, but if they were horny, she was there. The Texas boys seemed to want their girls more quiet and submissive, which was definitely not what Regina was about. Regina was also dabbling in sex with some older girls, and she decided the encounters with the girls was definitely more satisfying and fulfilling. After graduation, Regina gave her Porsche back to her dad. She didn't want to pay for half of it. Instead, she bought herself a convertible Mustang and she left Pasadena, Texas. She was headed for Austin, Texas's capital, a college town, and apparently a great place for LGBTQ+ people. Regina was a cutie. Short dark hair, big expressive eyes, fair skin and full lips. She was what was called in my community a lipstick lesbian. And in case you're not familiar with that term, lipstick lesbians are very girly. The complete opposite of a bull dyke, who is a very masculine lesbian. But there are so many different labels it's really hard to keep track of. Regina was lipstick, and it seemed she was attracted to other lipstick lesbians as well. Don't get me wrong about Regina. Aside from being kind, sweet, and thoughtful, she was tough as nails. She was sassy, strong-willed, and even stubborn with a foul mouth on her that I could really appreciate. In July 1994, Regina met a pretty, petite 17-year-old girl at a gay nightclub. The place was called Club 404 in Austin. Mind you, just because a club or a bar might be deemed as gay does not mean that the only customers are LGBTQ. Gay bars in the Lavender Heights section of Sacramento always had all walks of life attending the clubs. I mean, face it, we do play the best music to get our dance on. I remember complaining to friends when we'd go out to the clubs. Everyone should be made to wear a sticker of their sexual identity at these clubs. And my friend Sarah asked me why. I said, so we know who we can dance with. Sarah laughed, and she said, CJ, women are like spaghetti noodles. They're straight until they're wet. Sarah is a very confident lesbian. Okay, back to Regina and the 17-year-old girl who she was immediately attracted to. This girl was named Kim LeBlanc, and she was a first-year college student at the University of Texas in Austin. Regina was also a pretty confident lesbian. At least I think it was confidence. It could have been the alcohol or the drugs. In particular, cocaine is what Regina used quite a bit. But that night it didn't matter to her if Kim was straight, gay, or bi. Regina only knew that she wanted to get to know her better. So she made her moves. And Kim bit. The two young women began seeing each other. Regina, a party girl, was the queen of the gay Austin scene during that time. Many knew her, and she had plenty of friends. If Regina didn't like you, neither did her friends, and you would be an outcast in the gay community. You know how sometimes when two people get together in a romantic relationship, it's not a good chemistry mix at all? Regina and Kim's relationship was downright toxic, and it was hard to break free from. Regina's friends did not like Kim, regardless of how Regina felt about her. Regina was obsessed with Kim, and she used her money to buy everything for her. Clothes, food, makeup, drugs. She took Kim and Kim's friends on trips. Ecstasy was a drug that Regina and Kim enjoyed doing together. If Kim had any inhibitions about sexual contact with Regina, the ecstasy took the inhibitions right away, replacing them with euphoria. Regina ended up giving Kim one of her bank cards and a PIN number so Kim could make withdrawals when she wanted. Regina did not want Kim to be without anything her little heart desired. And as it turned out, Kim was nowhere near as trustworthy as Jeremy and Anita. In 1995, Kim had turned 18, and she was still not the most mature young woman. But again, she was at an age she was trying to figure herself out. She didn't think she was gay, though. She told Regina as much, and as hard as that was to hear, Regina tried to be understanding. She really wanted Kim to be happy. And in the back of Regina's mind, she felt someday Kim will come around and realize how good she has things with me. She'll figure out no one will love her as much as I do. Regina was really counting on this to happen. It was her glimmer of hope. In the meantime, she let Kim go and do what she needed to do. Right now, it would just be Regina and her dog Spirit, and of course her friends.
I'm Edward October, creator-host of OctoberPod, and we're both listening to Beyond the Rainbow, Crimes of the LGBT on the Darkcast Network.
Kim took a job as a receptionist at a gym. This is where she met a 20-year-old trainer named Justin Thomas. Justin was more than a trainer for the gym, though. He was also a drug and arms dealer. He used the gym to traffic his contraband. When Kim met Justin, she was enamored. He was the most beautiful man she had ever seen. To be honest, after I saw a photo of Justin, I thought, damn, Kim must not get out much, or may need glasses. He reminded me of the pictures in textbooks of the evolution of man, somewhere between the Neanderthal and Cro-Magnon period. But to each their own, I guess. Kim pursued Justin, and the two started to date. Regina was none too happy when she heard this news. But then Kim was also spending time with Regina, which made Regina a very happy woman. Then it got to a point where Justin would get angry with Kim because she spent too much time with Regina. When Kim and Regina were together, there was nothing more physical between the two women. But Kim liked Regina's money an awful lot. And then Kim would go back to her time with Justin. So Regina would get pissed when Kim would spend too much time with him. After a few months into the relationship between Kim and Justin had told Kim he had killed a man in California in 1992. A guy named Rafael Noriega who had sold Justin meth. Apparently Justin hadn't been arrested for it because 3 years later this douchebag is living his best life in Austin, Texas. There's even rumors that this Neanderthal, he was a hitman for the Mexican mafia. But those are just rumors and I can't substantiate it. Finally, Justin and Regina met. It wasn't horrible. It wasn't great. It was cordial. And eventually, Justin asked Regina to deal drugs for him at the LGBTQ clubs in Austin. What she told him was, "Get the fuck out of town. I'm not doing that for you or anyone." There was a day in here where Regina was at Justin and Kim's place. Justin was not there. Justin's sister dropped by and caught Regina and Kim naked on the couch. The two women ran into Justin's room to put clothes on. When Justin's sister told him about it, he admitted they were going to try a threesome, but Regina wouldn't let him do anything to her. So he had to leave. He just couldn't watch the two of them together. As weeks went by and Kim was spending more and more time with Justin, Regina would fly into rages. She'd call and she'd get into fights with Kim. In the background, Justin would be yelling too. He'd rip the phone from Kim and tell Regina to fuck off and leave him alone. Kim would take the phone back and Regina yelled into the phone she was going to turn Justin into the police. She was going to rat him out for selling drugs and guns. And Regina did have her connections. Her good friend Anita was interning with law enforcement, and she knew people. As Kim hung up the phone with Regina, Justin was seething. He menacingly said to Kim,
"I'm gonna fucking kill her."
As the days went on, Justin became increasingly worried about Regina snitching him out. And Kim was getting very tired of Regina's incessant calls bitching about Justin. Calls to encourage her to leave Justin. Kim told Justin she regretted ever meeting Regina. To console themselves, they did some crystal meth and went to bed. Towards the end of June, Regina told her good friend Jeremy she was going to go away for a bit soon. And then she asked him if he'd please come by and feed and walk her dog Spirit. Oh, and do his routine cleaning ritual. Jeremy said of course he would. On June 29th, 1995, Justin, taking Kim's regrets and his own animosity towards Regina, he went to Regina's apartment. He climbed through a broken window she had, and he stabbed her to death. Remember, Justin was a lot of things, and one of the things was a muscle man trainer. This fucker was strong, and he was angry. He shoved the knife so far into Regina's neck, it cut into her lung and caused blood to fill it. The end result? Regina drowned in her own blood. Justin picked up Regina's body and moved her into the bathroom. He put her in the tub, turned on the shower, and drained her body of blood. He cleaned himself up a little, went back out to the living room and moved the recliner over most of the blood stain on the carpet. And then he grabbed Regina's burgundy comforter off her bed, went into the bathroom and wrapped Regina's body in it. He then carried her body downstairs and put her into her own Jeep. Justin drove Regina's Jeep home, and he told Kim what he had done. Kim was in disbelief and she broke into tears. But instead of contacting the police, she agreed to help Justin dispose of Regina's body. The two went down to the parking lot and Justin got into Regina's Jeep. Kim followed him in her car, which incidentally was a Jeep identical to Regina's. They drove both Jeeps to Justin's dad's property. Then they sat in Kim's Jeep trying to figure out what to do next. Justin called some friends and he let his friends know he had a Jeep for sale. While he waited to hear back from his friends about the Jeep, he and Kim went to a home improvement store, and using Regina's bank card, they bought a 33-gallon trash can, some chain, and cement. And the cement was not easy to find. They had to drive around to several stores for the cement. Justin wanted to put Regina's body in the can and cement it to weight it down and throw it into the river. After hearing back from friends and no one wanting to buy Regina's Jeep, Justin had to come up with a plan B. He drove Regina's Jeep with Kim following 35 to 40 minutes away to Bastrop, Texas. The road they found was actually a road that a lot of stolen cars get abandoned on. Justin and Kim doused Regina's Jeep with her body in the back seat. They used gasoline as the accelerant. And then Justin lit the Jeep on fire, and they took off with the Jeep exploding behind them. The couple went to a motel for the night. With the remaining cash they had from buying supplies to dispose of Regina's body that they never used, they paid for the room. They bought some black hair dye and a shaving kit for Justin. They bought some weed, coke, and some booze. At the motel, Kim shaved Justin's hair partially, giving him the fuggliest mohawk I've ever seen, and then they dyed the remaining patch of his hair black. Bastrop Fire Department was dispatched, and quite honestly, they weren't too surprised by the fire. That is, until they saw in the back seat something that resembled a human body. The fire got so hot, Regina's body had melted to the back seat. Police had to come and remove the back seat to take it in for examination, and there wasn't a whole lot left to Regina, I'm afraid. But police found the license plate to her car a short distance from the vehicle. It had been half scorched. They were still able to learn who the Jeep belonged to. Also found in the Jeep, wrapped in an old rag that had been somewhat toasted, was a knife turning out to be the murder weapon. Now that the police had the owner of the car's name, they needed to find out who the charred, melted body in the back of the Jeep was. Meanwhile, Jeremy came to check on Spirit and clean up after his lovable, sloppy friend Regina. He wasn't too surprised to see the mess in Regina's apartment. It looked as though Spirit had gotten into Regina's used tampons, as our gross dogs often do. He found Spirit cowering in Regina's bedroom. He thought that was weird. Spirit normally would be bouncing around the house when Jeremy showed up. Jeremy knew about Regina's coke habit. He knew that she was prone to some pretty bad nosebleeds. So when he noticed some spots of blood in the bathroom, some splatter on the walls, he didn't think much of it. He was in cleaning mode, and he figured that Regina had just one of her overusing coke bloody nose. He came across a pool of blood on the carpet, but I don't think Jeremy knew it was blood, so he just shook his head and said, "Regina, you think you're sly pulling this chair over that stain? I found it, bitch!" And then he continued cleaning. Regina's bank card that Kim had possession of allowed Kim to withdraw up to $300 a day, which Kim had been doing nearly every day since the card had been given to her. After Justin murdered Regina, that practice didn't stop. Police called Regina's apartment. Jeremy was there checking on Spirit again. When the police identified themselves on the phone, immediately Jeremy thought Regina had been arrested. Before waiting to see what they had to say, he told them he'd be right there to bail her out. They told Jeremy that wouldn't be necessary, and they told him the condition they found her car in and that there was a body inside. They asked him if he had seen Regina lately. He told them no. She said she was taking a trip because she'd been under a lot of stress lately, and he was there taking care of her dog. The police then told him to take the dog and himself and leave Regina's place. They needed to investigate her apartment. Jeremy, a little panicked, apologized, saying he cleaned the apartment. They told him still he needed to leave without touching anything else and to take the dog, which he did. Now, there is a little more to this, but I don't know really how relevant it is. I'll kind of just skim through it by memory. Anita hadn't heard from Regina in a while. Not by phone, not by sight, so she was getting worried about her. She went over to Regina's apartment and knew about the broken window and went in that way and was looking around and didn't see Regina anywhere. Anita talked to Jeremy and, they traded stories and they both started to worry about Regina. So they decided to contact Kim. Kim said she hadn't seen Regina and didn't know where she was. Kim came over to Regina's apartment, probably wanted to clean some of the evidence that Justin had left behind, but it was more than likely too late. And as Kim was in the apartment, she started to cry. Jeremy had just showed up, and he heard crying coming from Regina's apartment. And he was so relieved he thought Regina was back, and he went in, hoping to see Regina, and he saw Kim. Now, Regina never went anywhere without her makeup bag and her Doc Marten boots. And both of those items were still in the apartment. And this got Jeremy worried even more so. So that's the part that I didn't really include, but I don't know. You can decide if you think that's important to the story or not. Jeremy called the police station. He asked if he and Anita could come to the station and try to identify the body found in Regina's Jeep. Police said that would just not be possible. Kim and Justin left the motel, leaving towels and sheets with residue blood from disposing of Regina's body. They went and they withdrew another $300, and then they went back to Justin's place to do more drugs and fall asleep. Police showed up at Justin's, and they asked Kim to come down to the police station for questioning. She was compliant, but Justin yelled at them where was their warrant. He too ended up at the police station answering questions. They were both released after questioning. Upon discovering that the body in the Jeep was Regina Hartwell, police asked Jeremy and Anita to come down to the station for questioning. Knowing the hatred between Justin and Regina, they both named Justin as a possible suspect. July 5th, 1995, Justin and Kim were arrested. Justin denied killing Regina, but he said he did burn her Jeep, which makes me think Neanderthal Cro-Magnon man? None too smart. The guy Rafael Noriega he allegedly murdered in 1992 came up as well. And the verdict of the trial? Well, Justin is currently on death row at San Quentin in California. As for Kim's part, the charges against her were eventually dropped, which I personally feel was wrong. She was part of the disposal of Regina's body. She should have served something. But she changed her name and no one's quite sure where she is now. Rest in power, Regina. Our true crime quickie this episode comes to us from Glendale, Arizona. On February 12, 2016, two 15-year-old girls would leave this earth in a murder-suicide. It happened inside their high school, Independence High. Dorothy Dutiel left 8 suicide notes in her room, explaining just how heartbroken she was that May Q didn't love her anymore. Dorothy got the gun from a 15-year-old boy who took the gun from his house. He didn't know what she was planning on using it for. Dorothy told him it was for protection. Dorothy and May had been dating for years and they were best friends. Other kids at the school were very accepting of their relationship. The other kids said that Dorothy and May were very sweet girls, and everything seemed fine the day before the shooting. But May was getting ready to break up with Dorothy. She just wasn't romantically interested in her anymore, and it was too much for Dorothy to handle. In desperation, Dorothy asked the boy for a gun to borrow. The day Dorothy shot the both of them, 3 shots were heard and the school immediately went on lockdown, fearing the worst. As the news of the girls' deaths circulated the school, kids jumped on social media stating how sad they were to have lost both Dorothy and May. I was going to try and read some of the 8 letters Dorothy left, but they truly were too hard to read, and not just because of the content, but because they've been censored in a lot of places. A lot of big, thick black lines drawn through sentences, and sometimes the handwriting was tough to figure out. But I do know that at least one of the letters was all about Dorothy's pain, how much it hurt that May told her she's been iffy about their relationship for years, and that May didn't love her romantically anymore. Another letter was to her parents, apologizing for silly things like the new clothing they just bought her. And another was to first responders, and it told them what kind of gun she used, and to please not blame the boy she got it from. In her letter, Dorothy also admitted to suffering from depression. All in all, the whole situation is very sad. It's sad that we aren't teaching our kids how to deal with rejection and pain. Maybe because many of us adults don't know how to cope with it either. If you're a parent, it's just something to think about. I honestly have a hard time remembering if I talked to my daughter about how to cope with the pain of heartbreak. I think I did, because I think it was at a time that I was going through some heartbreak, and I was telling her what some of the tools I used to cope with mine. I hope I did. Well, that's a conversation I get to have with my daughter soon. Rest in power, May and Dorothy. And don't forget, the Pacific Northwest True Crime Festival is October 8th and 9th in Auburn, Washington. That's about half an hour away from Seattle. On my Instagram, Rainbow Crimes 12, you can win a pair of weekend passes to the event. All you gotta do is DM me and tell me it's not a crime to be gay, unless you're a murderer. And I'll put you in a drawing for your chance to win. Come on, warriors, I want to see your faces. Love you guys. Remember, it's not a crime to be gay, unless you're a murderer.